Hi guys, it's me, Brittnee. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how to pipe chocolate. I'll be sharing with you what piping bag to use, your different chocolate options, some patterns to follow, and a few other pointers. If you're interested in more chocolate tutorials, maybe you should subscribe to my channel. Also, don't forget to hit the notification bell down below. Alright, so to get started with practicing piping your chocolate, you're going to of course want some chocolate. I'll go over some of your options there in just a minute. You might want some patterns to practice with, which I have created a downloadable PDF, which you can find by checking out the link below in the description box. You will want some acetate sheets or some parchment paper. You want these to pipe the chocolate on. The reason you want to use these is because you can lay them over top of the pattern sheets and be able to trace them until you get more familiar with the designs, and then you can practice piping freehand. And as always, I've linked all the supplies you might want in the description box below. So for your chocolate, you have a few different options. First, and the easiest option, is to just use candy melts. Candy melts are basically stabilized chocolate. You don't need to temper it. You can just melt it and put it in the piping bag and practice. Your other option is to use couverture chocolate, which is a higher quality chocolate. It has to have a certain percentage of cocoa butter in it. The thing about using couverture chocolate is that in order to get it nice and shiny and finished looking, you need to temper it. You don't have to temper it to pipe with, but because it has more cocoa butter in it, when you melt it, it's a lot runnier. So all you have to do if you want to pipe with it is add just like a little bit of water. I mean like one droplet at a time until it's the perfect consistency, and then it'll be perfect for piping. The only thing is if you add water to it and you don't temper it, when it sets up, it won't be shiny. But you can practice with it. To me, it's kind of a waste of the chocolate to pipe with it because it's really nice chocolate. Like, you don't want to waste it and it's more expensive. I always use candy melts, or sometimes they're called up peels or A peels. Honestly, I don't know why they're called that or how to pronounce it. I buy them in big bulk bags from a local kitchen supply store, but you can find different brands at Michael's or on Amazon. And like I said, I'll link some different options in the description box below. The most common one is Wilton candy melts. I think you can even buy these at Walmart. So these will get the job done. So to get started, the first thing I'm going to do is make a parchment paper piping bag. If you saw my last video, I teach you how to do this. If you missed that video, go ahead and click the link in the tag card up above, and you can go learn how to make one of those. They're really, really useful for chocolate piping. So we'll start by doing that. All right, so the next step is to melt your chocolate and fill your parchment bag. But first I'm going to show you a little technique that I kind of made up because when I'm doing lots of chocolate work, I want to keep my bags warm. But if you've worked with chocolate before, you know that because there's such a small amount of chocolate in the tip, it sets up extremely fast, and that's very frustrating. So I came up with this way to keep my chocolate piping bag warm so that it's always nice and smooth when you're trying to get something done and you don't want to keep putting it in the microwave. And if you keep reheating chocolate in the microwave, it eventually gets lumpy and clumpy and stuck in your piping bag. So anyway, this way works really good for me. So what you're going to want to do is get a pot on the stove like this. You want to fill it up with water just like an inch high, and turn the stove on to high until the water boils. Once it's boiled, you can turn the stove off, and then you're just going to place a sheet tray or something flat on top. And so the steam from the water is going to hit the pan and keep it warm. And then when you're using one bag, you put the other one on top of the pan. And then when this one starts cooling down and getting clumpy or hard to come out, you switch them. And then this one warms up, or this one warms up, switch them. One's warming while the other one's being used, and then when the one being used gets, they give up with the motorcycles. Motorcycles never stop. They never stop. Then you never have to sit and microwave them. You never have to sit and wait or struggle with the chocolate. You just always have nice warm chocolate to pipe with. Okay, so I'm using Guitar dark chocolate appeals. So they're a chocolate compound. They're stabilized, so no need to temper them. But they still can get weird if you heat them too fast. They can seize up. So what you want to do is melt them pretty slow in the microwave, or 10 seconds at a time, 15 seconds at a time, stirring in between. Just make sure you don't burn them. So I started with 30 seconds, but obviously that's not enough. They're still firm, but they're starting to melt on the bottom. Now I don't want to heat them too fast, and since I'm just using the regular high power on the microwave, I just pull them out at 20 seconds. I'm giving them another stir, and they're definitely starting to get melty. So you can see it's melty, but also still clumpy. So I'm gonna put them back in. So that was just the last 10 seconds that was left over, stirring them, getting closer. And you don't want to heat them in the microwave until they're fully melted. That means you've gone too far. You still want there to be little clumps, and then the stirring will melt the rest of the little chips, or whatever they are. Whatever they are, appeals, drops. I'm trying to think of what else people call them. But see, it wasn't that melted. Now it's like even more melted just by stirring. So the important thing with chocolate is that you don't want to burn it. Then it gets clumpy and people wonder, what happened? Okay, maybe like 10 more seconds. So there are some small pieces left, and I'm just stirring them till they melt. And now it's nice and smooth like this. So it's ready to put into our piping bag and get piping. But I also noticed while I was heating this that our water is now boiling. So I'm going to turn the stove off. And I've got this little sheet tray. I'm just going to place it on top of here. So just keep in mind that I'm going to fill up 2 bags, and I'm going to keep 1 bag over here on the stove, keeping the chocolate warm while I'm practicing piping over here on the table. All right, so I've already filled up 1 bag and put it on the stove to keep warm. And I'm going to fill this bag. Now you don't want to overfill it. I've only filled it about halfway, and now I'm just going to seal it. I press it in, I pull this one in and this one in, and then I just roll it down. And then I give it a little squeeze just to make sure the top's nice and sealed. So our bag's full and we're ready to go, but before we start piping, because I can't talk while I'm piping, I'm going to give you a few pointers first that you can think about as you watch me pipe. So the first tip is to always pipe standing up. You want to use your whole body when you're piping, along with like your arm. You don't want to rely on your wrist. It's much smoother when you use your whole body. I don't exactly know how to explain it, so I'm not even going to try. Just trust me. You can test it out. You can hold your wrist still and pipe like this, and it's going to be shaky, and you're not going to have as much control. But when you're standing up and you're using your whole body and your arm, it's smoother, it's easier. You'll see by practicing. You'll see what I mean. Really, I'm just rambling on and I can't explain it. Anyway, so that's tip number 1. Tip number 2 is try not to concentrate. That sounds counterintuitive, counterproductive, but you just need to like go with it. You just need to go with the flow. Once you know the patterns, you need to get in some sort of rhythm. If you listen to music while you're doing it and just like try to not think about it, just like, it's almost like a meditation where you just start piping and you just enjoy it. And it turns out better that way. But when you're all nervous, like, oh, I'm scared to touch whatever you're piping on with the chocolate, I'm gonna mess up, I'm gonna ruin it. It doesn't turn out as good. You just need to relax, listen to music, get in the flow. And then I just wanted to mention a few more things of what you might even want to pipe chocolate on or use pipe chocolate for. So I'll show you some of my patterns. These are like standalone single designs. You can pipe these onto parchment paper or acetate sheets. And then when they dry, peel them off and put them on pastries as decorations or on cakes. Like if you portion cakes and do like a little swirl of whipped cream or buttercream frosting, you can peel these off the paper and stick them on as a little decoration. You can use them for plated desserts. This style is good for piping around a cake. You can pipe chocolate around a cake or even royal icing around a cake. You can do it across the tops of things like brownies, which then you'll cut, and so they'll have like, each one will have part of the pattern. You can do it across a big cookie. And then you can even do images. So like I have, just to show you guys, a butterfly, a flower, and a leaf, which you can pipe in advance once they set up, peel them off, and once again, use them on pastries, cakes, whatever. Oh, I think I forgot to mention with these standalone designs, these are my favorite for piping onto like brownies, where like I'll cut the brownies first and then pipe these directly onto the brownies, or eclairs. These are great for eclairs. You can do basically any of these designs on eclairs, little petit fours, chocolates. It's so useful once you know how to do this. You can just like, when you make something, you'll just be like, oh, I'm gonna spruce it up and I'm gonna pipe some chocolate on it because it makes everything look like 10 times fancier. And then, if you wanna take it to the next level, you know what to do. Gold leaf. So we have our piping pattern sheet here. I'm just going to tape it to the counter so that it doesn't move as we're practicing. And then I mentioned before that you can use either parchment paper to pipe on, or you can use acetate sheets. So I'm going to tape down the acetate sheet so that it doesn't move while I practice. So I have my parchment bag filled with chocolate and I'm going to cut a hole in the tip. I'm going to start out small, and if I need to make it bigger, I'll make it bigger. I have a piece of parchment paper here. I'll just test out the size of the chocolate and how it's working. If the hole's too small for the amount of pressure you're giving, it'll go like that. So you just want to test it to make sure it's how you like it. So to me, it looks pretty good. So I'm just going to start practicing now. You're going to hold the parchment bag in the center of your palm and then squeeze it with all of your fingers at the same time. So it's even pressure. And then remember, both feet on the floor, standing up. You're going to almost rock back and forth and also use your arm to make the pattern nice and smooth. You can see my second one's better than my first. Sometimes it, like I said, with like the rhythm and almost that meditation, you have to get into the flow before, like, and then it'll start getting better and better. Speaking of that, it helps if you're piping the same pattern over and over again because it starts to become muscle memory. So in the sheets that I have put in the link below to download for you guys, each pattern has its own sheet. So you can choose which one you like best and which one you want to practice, and just practice it over and over again. So you may have noticed I steady my hand, because sometimes my hand can get shaky when you're squeezing the bag. I steady my right hand with my left hand, and then like I say, I don't move my wrist at all. I'm just rocking back and forth and also using my arm. Now let's see how we did. And that's what they look like. So as you can see, this one's pretty shaky. That one I didn't get a nice even line. So honestly, for me at this point, I'm like way better at piping without the pattern underneath. I would tell you that as soon as you feel comfortable with how to draw the pattern with the piping bag, to just go for it without tracing, because you can see what you're doing a lot better when you're not following the pattern. So let me show you what I mean. I'm going to exchange these and I'm just going to pipe them by looking at the pattern. As you can see, these look just as good as my other ones, but they're freehand. And like I said, if you practice piping the same pattern over and over, it gets better and better. This one's my favorite pattern. Comment below which one is your favorite. All right, let's try out these long patterns now. So I've got my parchment bag that's nice and warm. I keep switching them on and off that warmer, if you're wondering. So it hasn't set up yet. See, honestly, I'm having such a hard time seeing where my chocolate's landing that these patterns, they're great for learning the pattern, but honestly, piping freehand, it turns out a lot better because you can, if you make a little bit of a mistake or it's not exact, you can adjust your next loop. You know what I mean? Also, just wanted to mention that these patterns on this sheet kind of build upon each other. So this is loopies, and then loopies upside down, and then loopies, and then kind of a more involved pattern on top. So you can start with the more simple one and then add on. And then over here on the right, you can see I've added a little bit of extra things. These are just little elements you can add to like decorate the pattern a little more. So I left one side blank and added them on the other side just to give you some options. Okay, and then this next one is my favorite. I think it's because it's complicated and hard, but if you do it, I can't always do it nice and clean, but if you can get it right, it looks so nice. Let's see if I can do it today. You never know. All right, let's see how I did. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how you can make different objects. So I have my pattern with the images, and I'm going to use parchment this time so that I don't waste any more acetate. And I'm just going to tape the top down because with this one, I want it to be nice and smooth since it's going to be filled in. You want to be able to give the parchment a shake and smooth out the chocolate. So I'm going to start by outlining the butterfly with dark chocolate. Okay, now we've outlined all the black with dark chocolate, and we're going to fill in the middle with white and pink. So now we have our white chocolate melts and our colored chocolate melts all melted. And sometimes they can be a lot thicker than the dark chocolate. Like, see how it holds its shape? The dark chocolate is a lot smoother, but this can be hard to pipe. So I'm going to show you a little trick you can do. You can add just a little bit of vegetable oil to make them smoother to pipe. had plenty of time to set up, I just want to show some of them to you. Of course, these long ones, you don't really want to peel off. They're just going to break. When you're doing the long patterns, you want to pipe those directly on something, brownies, cakes, cookies. But these ones, the Standalone Designs, we can peel some off and show you. So like I mentioned before, you can take this little design and stick it in a little twirl of whipped cream or frosting and just add a little extra decor. But then we also have the butterfly, which I'll carefully show you. Turned out like this. Turned out pretty cute. And here's our little flower. These are easy to just pump out a lot of them. And then you could put them on top of a little mini cupcake or a cookie just to add something cute, you know, a little bit of extra. And then our leaf, which is nothing special. I just did it to show you, you know, what can be done. If you want to check out my Pinterest board, you'll find lots and lots more patterns to practice with. And then of course the downloadable PDF, don't forget, it's in the description box below, which will include all the ones that I showed you today if you're interested in downloading that. Well, hopefully some of these tips help you out in learning how to pipe chocolate. Please give the video a like if you found it useful, it helps me out, and subscribe to my channel if you're interested in learning more about baking, chocolate, cakes, things like that. Don't forget to check out my video on how to make a paper parchment piping bag if you haven't already and need to learn how. Thank you all for supporting my channel, and I'll see you guys in a week. Bye!